Hi everyone. If you don't know me, my name is Keeley. I am a trust-based therapeutic touch practitioner, otherwise known as a professional cuddler with Cuddlists, and I am a boundaries and consent communication facilitator. Today we're talking a little bit about sexual assault, and if you are not living under a rock, then this is a really big topic right now. Since the whole Harvey Weinstein debacle, ever since the recent prevalence of the Me Too movement, there have been new articles every week about sexual assault. Prominent figures in business, in the media industry, in politics. It's inescapable. This is the world that we're living in right now. And I'm a professional cuddler. I cuddle with people for a living. How is it possible that I don't get assaulted every day? How is that possible? Because I can tell you that I don't. That doesn't happen. Well, I've done a little bit of thinking about it and trying to put into words what my experience is and what I hear echoed in the industry quite a bit. And there are really two main things. The first of which is having to acknowledge this idea of power dynamics. In most business settings, in most corporate settings, in government, absolutely, there is a power dynamic. As opposed to, in my experience, I run my own business. I am an independent contractor. I am my boss. If I don't make my bills, it's because I didn't work hard enough. That's it. There's no one assessing my work other than me and, my individual clients and whether they want to come back or not. However, in these corporate settings, in politics, in media, there is a power dynamic. Someone decides your paycheck. Someone decides whether you get a job or not. Someone decides whether you get a bonus or not. Someone is evaluating you every year. And when I was in the corporate world, I absolutely had more instances of sexual assault than I am as a professional cuddler. Imagine that. Just let that sink in for a minute. As someone who spoons with people for a living, so to speak, what I do, it is unfair to me and to the rest of my industry to reduce what I do down to spooning. But for the hyperbole of this example, as someone who spoons for a living, I don't get as assaulted as when I worked at a desk job. Just imagine that. So part of that, one element of that is power dynamic. So I have to recognize that. It is not as easy to do what I do, and I'm going to get into what I specifically do in order to prevent being assaulted in a moment. But it's not as easy to do those things when the environment of the place you're going into is set by someone else, is set by a CEO, is set by your boss, is set by HR. Which I say HR specifically because HR for corporations as an institution is set for the benefit of that corporation. It's not set for the benefit of the employees, although it's marketed as such. Right? It doesn't, as a side effect of not wanting to get sued, as a side effect of protecting the corporation from lawsuit, it helps the employees. It benefits the employees. And if it's a good corporation, if the company is good, then they do have a personal mission to make the workplace a better environment for its employees and have invested interest in its employees. But that's not its original primary purpose. So that's why I bring that up. Tangent aside, power dynamic is not necessarily an issue. If anything, it's in my favor because I am, in my practice, people are coming to me because I am the expert. I have the training. I have the certification. I am the person who has the wealth of knowledge as a resource for them to tap into so that they can access platonic touch in a structured way that's centered on boundaries and communication. That's why they come to me. So again, the power dynamic is in my favor. So power dynamic aside, people don't only get assaulted in situations where there is a dramatic power dynamic difference. That's not the world we live in. They get assaulted all the time. I've been assaulted in places other than the workplace. So what do I do? What do I do differently, or what is different about the nature of what I do? Why? How is it possible that I don't get assaulted every day? And I can think of maybe 2 instances that I've ever been assaulted doing this job, and there's a lot more that I can think of in the workplace. So it comes down to a couple of things. First of all, communication. That word is thrown around so much. But here's what I mean. I am direct. I am not uncomfortable talking about things that in normal social settings are often uncomfortable, like touch. Like, I can comfortably say the word erection. Can't really do that in the office. And we can talk about that and be like, hey, I noticed you got an erection. That's pretty typical. I mean, human beings have bodies, and their bodies do things, and it means that your body is functioning. But we need to address this. Or sometimes we don't. It just depends on, the circumstance. But talking about that doesn't make me uncomfortable. And because I'm not uncomfortable, the other person isn't uncomfortable. Or at least I can help them through. It's a whole lot easier to deal with your own discomfort if you're not also experiencing the other person's. Right? So I can very easily help someone through that if that's like something that we need to navigate. Also, saying things like, hey, your hand's a little bit close to my breast. It doesn't seem like that you're trying to go up there, but I need you to move it down so that I'm more comfortable. How, if you're watching this video, did you squirm a little bit at that? Because most people do. Most people squirm a little bit. That's not something that people say. That's not something that's necessarily acceptable to say in, like average everyday social interactions. You don't talk about breasts. Or you don't say that word. Not unless you're, and you don't even say that word in like, as people would categorize crude, like potty humor kind of interactions, which is another instance where we talk about uncomfortable topics, but under the umbrella of humor so that it's more accessible, right? But I don't need that. I can just be real. And talking about being real, that's the other thing. And it's disarming often. Please ignore that tone that you just heard. But it's disarming often because it's very authentic. It's very real. It's very comfortable. And in our society, we're not always used to being that direct, that upfront, that authentic. There's social protocols, which brings me to my next thing that's really, really important. I am not concerned in my sessions. I'm not concerned with being polite. I'm concerned with being compassionate. There's a huge difference between the two. And it's a really important distance. I don't care about being polite. And I shouldn't to do this work really well. I absolutely care about being compassionate every step of the way. And talking about that difference there's nuances, and it's so important. Politeness is defined by social convention. Politeness is defined by an imaginary and often disputed set of cultural nebulous rules that may or may not apply to a situation, but are typically imposed as a default. Being compassionate is about actually giving a crap about the person that you are with. Trying to do things with their well-being as the most importance, as the highest ranking importance. That often coincides. Being compassionate often is polite. Often, but not always. Sometimes politeness is obligation, and I don't find obligation to be very compassionate. Because I feel like it's disingenuous. I feel like you are thrusting resentment on another person. If I don't want to do something and I don't tell you that I didn't want to do it, but then I resent you for it, that's not compassionate. That's not kind to you. I didn't give you the information that you needed to successfully navigate your world. If you wanted something and I felt obligated to do it, so I just did it, but I hated it, what if it was something that you didn't really care that much about and you would have much rather say, oh, don't worry about that thing. Never mind, I got another friend who doesn't mind doing it. Don't do it out of obligation. I'd rather spend some time with you that I like. It denies them that opportunity. So you're denying them the opportunity to be closer, more connected, and more. So without belaboring that point too much, difference between compassion and politeness. And I don't give any craps about being polite. That doesn't suit me. It doesn't suit my clients. The second thing is I am not concerned with customer satisfaction. I am concerned with integrity to my practice and integrity to being the best at what I do. Those are two different things. One means that is a lot harder. I will say it's much easier to go with a customer satisfaction first because I don't have to use a whole lot of brain power. They're telling me what they want. Even if they don't really need that, even if it compromises me, even if it compromises the integrity of the business, they're going to tell me what they want. And if I just do whatever they say, then that's customer satisfaction. That doesn't serve anyone. Not in my business. Not in this practice, and not in my practice, and not in this industry, I would even go as far to say. What I am interested in, what I am invested in, what I see as a much higher value to my clients is having integrity, having the utmost integrity and standard for the quality of care that I'm providing and service that I'm providing. That I'm interested and invested in. Customer satisfaction, not so much. Because there's different kinds of communication. Some people don't communicate, aren't used to communicating in the very direct way that I communicate. So what's called passive communication, if anyone's familiar. It's where you say one thing, and there's also this meaning right here. It's, I don't want to do that. And you don't want to do that because you have made some judgment on the situation, or you don't want to do that because you resent the fact that you were asked to do that, or there's a whole other story underneath what you actually said. And I don't do that. What I mean, I say. If I say it, I mean it. And there's not a whole lot of subcontext that I don't give the person at some point. So because of that directness of communication, but with still being compassionate, there's some kinds of, so the customer won't always be satisfied. They won't always know exactly what they're getting into, and I would do my best to have this YouTube channel so that people have as much information as they can, so they have informed consent on coming to see me, on what I do, what my practice is about, what this industry is about, what my business is about. But I have to keep to that. I can't compromise the quality of what I do. I can't compromise the importance of what I do for each individual client, because I'm doing them a disservice, I'm doing myself a disservice, and I'm doing the potential clients who I wasn't able to see because I spent time on this, and maybe my resources and energy and et cetera, I'm not doing them a service. So there's a lot more facets to it. This video is already 15 minutes long, so I'm going to stop. But that is kind of why it boils down to, I don't get assaulted regularly. I rarely ever get any kind of situation like that. And that's not true of everyone in my industry. But those are power dynamic, recognizing the power dynamic element, being really direct in communication, active in my communication, and being more focused on compassionate integrity than I am in politeness or customer satisfaction. Those are some of the biggest reasons. Thank you so much for watching. If you've stayed with me for this full 15 minutes, then thank you. you're fantastic. If you've stayed with me for this full 15 minutes, then I'm going to jump to a conclusion that you might be invested in what I do and the message that I send. And if you are, it would mean so much to me if you would subscribe below. It helps me reach new people. It helps me gain more control over my YouTube channel, and it helps me make more of these. So please subscribe if you are able and willing. Thank you. Have a great day.